Hey guys, how's it going? Drew Barksdale here, career advisor with the Fulton Career Team. Today we have one of my good personal friends, Kim Attia, on the show. A little background on Kim. Kim was my freshman year tutor for calculus when I first got to BC. She's amazing. She works at FTI as a director, and I'm looking forward to having her on the show.
Hey guys, this is Kim Attia. I work for FTI Consulting. I'm a director. Thanks for having me on the show.
Kim, could you explain your area of consulting, kind of what your day job looks like, a daily task?
Sure. So I work for FTI's Litigation Practice. The full name is Forensic and Litigation Consulting. Specifically, what my team does is we support expert witnesses in litigation testimony. So, for example, my boss is an expert economist. We work a lot in damages cases. That can be anything from like a faulty equipment case from a manufacturer and then purchasers suing them, or a labor and employment case, wage discrimination, anything like that where there's a monetary value that can be attached to a wrongdoing. And my specific role is to provide data analysis and help produce reports that ultimately get filed with the judges and can be referenced to by lawyers. If there's a jury, then the jury would be able to read them, etc.
Kim, moving on to the second question, what does your case team look like? So how many people are on it, and what are some of the various roles in the firm, in the firm and on the team?
Sure. So I have a small group in New York. Any case team for this type of work will consist of an expert witness who will kind of be the overarching organizer of the project. And then generally underneath them will be a higher project manager, 1 to 2, what in FTI we call them directors, and then consultant level employees. So the expert witness honestly doesn't really do all that much when it comes to the actual report writing or data analytics. They're kind of just the face of the project. The most important person I would say would be the project manager. My team specifically, there's only 5 of us, so including our expert witness. So we have a very small team, but the group in New York is about 15 of us, and there's several expert witnesses and then the people underlying. The roles in terms of consultant, which would be kind of the entry-level position, tends to be, data analytics, a little bit of report writing. It kind of depends on the team that you're working with. Like my project manager generally does most of the report writing, but if there's a technical portion that needs to be written, or something that I specifically research, she'll ask me to do a couple paragraphs or a section. And then senior consultants, kind of same role, maybe a little bit more advanced, maybe also managing a consultant in their analysis. And then director, which would be, which is my level right now. You're a manager, but you still have to oversee the analyses. Right. And potentially, we always have to check things and sometimes redo them just to make sure that everything's right. That's the one thing about this type of consulting that's very interesting to me, because we're based in litigation. Yeah. Any mistake we make is in the court records, and you don't want any mistakes because you want to get hired again. So if you do find a mistake later, your opponent can either pick at it, or you have to come forward and say, we made calculation error or misrepresented this paragraph or whatever. So it's very important in all the stages that there's several levels of checking happening. And then finally, once it's all done, any depositions or trials or anything like that, that falls under the expert witnesses role. And most of the people who are expert witnesses either have MBAs or PhDs in their corresponding fields. There are some people who have bachelor's degrees but have been working in the field for, 20, 30 years, or master's degrees in their fields. But again, you kind of have to have the underlying work experience as well in order to get to that level, just because the scrutiny for the expert witnesses to be valid is very high.
So Kim, We just talked about, you know, your team size, your setting, and it definitely sounded like having a smaller team, you get exposure to management at a very young age. That's awesome. So now could we transition into the third question and kind of the how do I break into consulting? I'm a freshman, sophomore, looking to build up skills. What is it like breaking into economic consulting?
Sure. So I didn't even know this was a field until one of my professors, I think I was looking at their CV. You know how professors have their websites on,
Yep.
and I was just curious to see kind of what their background was. And he listed that he was an expert witness at a consulting firm. And so I went up to him after class one day and I was like, what kind of consulting does this entail? And he explained that economic consulting was a field.
Right.
So there's all different types. You know, there's antitrust consulting, antitrust litigation, um, damages litigation, which is what I do. We sometimes do a little bit of antitrust and wage discrimination, just general labor cases. And so there's a wide variety of types of consulting that you can do within economic consulting, which I found to be really interesting.
Yep.
So I actually didn't go straight from BC into consulting. I got my master's degree for a year at Tufts in economics. And to be honest, I found it a little bit easier to get into just even the interview level at some of these places. But it's totally not necessary. There are plenty of people at FTI and other consulting firms that went straight from undergrad into consultant roles. For me, I found it difficult to even get,
Right.
looked at. So, and then you just kind of apply. I mean,
Yeah.
the things that I thought were the most important when I went to interviews was looking at who you would be talking to,
Yeah.
especially in this type of consulting. If you're meeting with higher level people, they're certainly specialized in certain areas. So, for example, in my Boston interview at FTI, I looked up the man who was on my interview list, and he listed energy as his main focus. So he
Yeah.
did a lot of stuff with electric companies, utility companies. So I knew if I was working with him, I would probably be doing some of that work. So, doing your research, which everyone always says, and it's like a little bit creepy, but it's necessary and it's helpful to show people your interest, not only on the company, but on the people you're interviewing with themselves.
Absolutely.
And, if you're interviewing with me and I walk in, my LinkedIn doesn't say I'm specialized in anything or anything like that, but I even found alumni connections to be super helpful,
Yeah.
especially at a place like FTI where a lot of the Boston office has BC grads. BC grads love to hire another BC grad, people from where you came from. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea behind it.
Awesome. And Kim, what about some skill sets as a freshman or sophomore? Where should I be focusing this sounds interesting to me?
So for this type of role, statistics definitely important. You don't have to go crazy and take, the theory level statistics courses, but
Having the
maybe
interest.
intro
Yeah.
and then one more level of stats. Any type of econometrics can be helpful as well. It's not necessary, but it's just helpful. We have people from all different educational backgrounds in terms of majors. Like one of my coworkers is a poli-sci major. My boss was an English major, so it's not necessary, but as long as you show the ability to pick up different, technical skills, we know when people are coming in that, even though Excel is listed, this is like the running joke at every job. I feel like everyone puts Excel and then you like ask them to do something. They have no idea what they're doing. And so that's okay, but you just have to show that you are interested in learning it,
Right.
not just by saying it, but by like actively engaging
Your
and
actions.
in the conversations around it. So we use different statistical packages. I'm not sure if CSOM uses any Stata, but I know they tend to use, I think, SPSS. I was helping a Carroll School professor once over the summer with his statistics course.
Awesome.
But any type of programming, whether it's SPSS, whether it's R, Stata, or even just showing that you're interested in doing it is fine.
Right.
Everything is learnable. And so it's just kind of showing that you've tried is the main point. And I tend to not like to hire just based on technical abilities, just because there's so much more in a job other than being already knowing how to do something. I think behavioral parts of interviews tend to be the most important. You know, someone can be amazing at programming and all these things, but if you can't communicate well, or you can't, you know, be a good coworker, then it just doesn't end up working out as well. So I think just showing the ability and the interest in learning is the most important part.
So yeah, Kim, all those points are very salient, and you know, it kind of comes down to your relationships, communication, the soft skills, and obviously doing the hard stuff, the hard skills as well. But very much those first 2 points we've heard a lot. So kind of transition to question number 4. What makes FTI unique? And maybe can you list out the top 3 competitors that you guys see in the marketplace?
Sure. So I think the main thing that makes FTI different from a lot of other consulting firms is the fact that we do almost every type of consulting you can think of. So we have your corporate finance and restructuring type consulting. We have the litigation consulting. We have forensic accountants. We have healthcare consultants. We have strategic communications consultants, which is basically outsourcing PR to us in times of crises. So there's all these different things. So companies can hire us for one thing and then find out, oh, wait, they can do literally everything else for us as well, which I think makes us unique. And also we have some of these people that come to FTI, these experts come to us from incredible organizations. We have so many former FBI agents, which you would think, what kind of consulting do they do? Well, we have a cybersecurity practice that's really big with them and huge in the DC area, actually. And all these expert economists. There's this book that comes out every year that's called Who's Who Legal. I think we had like something like 45 or 50 experts in that. The experts we can come off in very different ways than some of our competitors. For FTI as a whole, I think our main competitors are your EY, Ernst & Young, maybe McKinsey, Analysis Group. In terms of just economic consulting, which is my group, you would have Brattle Group, Charles River Associates, and then again, Analysis Group. Yep. Again, it kind of depends on which of the segments of FTI you're looking to compare, but it's always going to be Big Four, PwC, and then these smaller ones that are more focused.
That makes sense. So I have to backtrack because that's amazing. So I think how FTI really separates from the pack is they get people like yourself from from a variety of different industries, and they bring ideas from across the board to come together to produce the best product. There's a book that I highly recommend by Dean Boyton, The Idea Hunter, where it talks about searching for ways to get ideas. And your ideas don't just come from, you know, doing the same thing over and over again, but it's looking in different places. And sometimes you have to get creative. And for FTI, hiring FBI, former FBI guys and gals, et cetera, that's creative. So that's awesome. So we've had a good conversation. What advice, maybe if we could talk in threes, you know, you're a young student, you're navigating the job search process. What advice, you know, would you give for this specific role or for just the career search in general?
I think for the career search in general, it's important to do your research, not only on the company, but on the people you'd be working with. And, you know, just because a place is a well-known firm or it's like the name everyone knows, it doesn't mean it's a good fit, and it doesn't mean it's the best fit. A lot of people have never heard of FTI, but I've worked there now for almost 5 years and I've enjoyed almost every minute of it. So I think looking outside the Big Four is really important and can make your career search so much less stressful. Also, you know, FTI, we hire from Harvard, Boston College, Tufts, all kinds of places. So it's not a lower tier company. It's just a different company that people don't know as well. And in terms of other things you can do while you're searching, I think reaching out to BC alumni at places where you're interested in is key. Like, I can't even express how important I think that is. I get emails on LinkedIn all the time from random students, from schools that I haven't attended and don't know. And when I get one from a BC student, I am 100 times more likely to respond and set up a time to
Absolutely.
talk. So it's important, and you can get your foot in the door in places, even if it's a place someone used to work at. You have connections. They still have those connections. It's not like it would be a completely blind conversation. Even if they just get your resume in front of the right person, it can be so helpful. Unfortunately, a lot of jobs come from connections. Maybe it's unfortunate, maybe it's not. I don't know. That's a different debate, but it's it's a part of it. And so it's important to acknowledge that and do as much as you can to help yourself. Go Eagles!